And with that, Tom Brady is joining us live. He'll be doing the Niners-Eagles game, 7-time Super Bowl champ. So I went and looked. This is funny, Tom. I went and looked at your highlights this morning of your first NFL start. Tom scampering for a rushing touchdown, playing in I lived there for 10 years, New England weather. Were you nervous? First start, go back to it. What were you like emotionally?
It was actually such a great day for football when you see that there's only few kind of games in your career where you have that type of weather. I remember going out there in pregame warm-up, and it was like 6 inches of snow on the ground. I thought, okay, the pass rush isn't going to be too tough today. So kind of me plowing through the snow and diving in there for the touchdown, that was one of the memorable moments in my career. And I never played in a game. There was maybe one other game where I had that type of weather conditions. But for so many reasons, I still can remember the way the snow was falling in pregame. And, you know, I had these visions of kind of, in a weird way, I can kind of go back to that day and relive it in my own mind when I see these highlights. So thanks for bringing it up. There's a lot of great memories. Probably not for the Raider fans or for my boy Charles Woodson, who still, you know, literally, I think every time we see each other in some form or fashion, you know, some type of fumble or non-fumble event comes up. But it was a really special first playoff start for me, and it was, I think, the last game in that stadium as well. So it was a lot of great memories.
So let's talk Eagles 49ers. I was saying to the staff yesterday, we were thinking of questions, and I said, the Eagles are the opposite of your Patriots. They're loud. There's drama. They're uneven. They have halves. They don't complete passes. I'm not exactly sure what Sirianni is, but he's a winner. Your Patriots, I always said this, you guys were like the brilliant accounting firm. I knew what I was getting every Sunday. The weather didn't matter. The opponent didn't. I knew exactly when I lived in Connecticut what the game would look. You'd have maybe one game a year where it unraveled. I don't even know series to series what I get from Philadelphia. You've done their games. How do you explain their success when they're this uneven, this loud consistently?
Yeah, you're right. But let me go back. First of all, famously, New England isn't known for drama. I think we had more gates than Logan International Airport for 20 years. There was always some sort of drama happening with our team over the course of the year. And I think it's the product of having a lot of successful moments too, where, you know, I look at Philly and they got a tough media market. And in the Northeast in general, I think there's always these environments that are a little bit tougher for the fans, for the players. You know, it's a tough city. It's a hard-nosed city. The fans, they expect a lot every year. So they've had success, obviously, in the Super Bowl a few years ago. Then they won it last year. And, you know, now it's like, well, we should just win every game. But the reality of the NFL is you don't win every game. The competition's really tough. And then when you cover the team, you're always looking for little chinks in the armor. And I think that ends up kind of feeling like, you know, there's distraction or drama because A.J. Brown doesn't get every target or Saquon's not rushing for 2,000 yards again. But understand, in some ways, those are anomalies. You know, that season Saquon had last year was an anomaly. He's a phenomenal player. He's going to be a Hall of Famer, but no running back rushes for 2,000 yards every year. So when it's less than 2,000, we all make a big drama that it's not 2,000 again. But the reality is it's probably closer. You know, this year's maybe a little down for him for a number of different reasons, but he's still a phenomenal player. The Eagles, they still got a great football team. If they're drama and they're sitting in the position they're in, I'm sure Coach Sirianni would take the drama every single week, the way that he ends up approaching his management of the team. But I think they're as dangerous as a playoff team as there is alive right now.
So there's an interesting stat with Kyle Shanahan, and I love Shanahan. I think he's the great play designer of his generation, like Andy was for years, or Bill Walsh. But there is a weird stat, and I think it does point to it. When a stat gets too weird, I said last hour, it's usually a personality thing. He has the best play sheet in the league. They use the most motion, but he doesn't come from behind. There's a remarkable number with Shanahan. Like, if he trails by 7+ points at half, they don't win. My knock is that he is a little tied to the play sheet. That I think a coach should be more Waymo than Google Maps. you got to go with the flow, right? Go with the flow. And I want to go back to Josh McDaniel, because you, Sean Payton, Bo Nix, Ben Johnson, Caleb, you were a guy, Elway was this. Sometimes you rip it up and start over. Give me some examples in the playoffs. Are there times, maybe those Baltimore games, Tom, when you went into it and said, guys, this isn't working. We have got to change. I mean, did you have like dramatic halftime moments like that?
I don't know if it's dramatic, but I think when you have the continuity that we had over a period of time in the playoffs, you could quickly adapt, because it's hard in the playoffs if you get down early in the game. And, I had a few games this year where teams were, Chicago, for example, like Caleb had 6 yards passing in the first half, then he comes out in the second half and he rattles off 200 plus yards and they win the game. And it's a dramatic kind of come from behind win that the Bears would have. But in the playoffs, it becomes much more difficult to come back by 10 points or more against a very good football team.
Right.
So I would just say, though, the important part to realize in all this is every team is built a specific way. The 49ers have always been built to run the football, to play good defense, and use a lot of play action pass to get explosives. The strength of their team isn't the wideout position this year. With the Ayuk situation, they've kind of brought in some receivers that Juwan Jennings I like, Bourne I like. But at the same time, I would say the strength of their team is throwing to the halfback, throwing the ball to the tight end. And it's not kind of maybe what we see at a traditional Kyle Shanahan offense. It doesn't mean they can't come back. I do think it's difficult with some of these systems, though, that are built on the run game and play action pass to come back. I was a part of more, I would say, a drop back passing team where our passing concepts were very detailed, very methodical. Our protection schemes, very methodical and detailed. I probably had 20 to 30 different protection schemes. I would say the West Coast offense has maybe half of those. So there are things that West Coast offense has done with some of these coaches they can do that are tremendous when they play in their style. And I think when they get out of their style, ultimately, that's what you're trying to do. When you're playing good teams, you're trying to get those teams to play left-handed. You're taking away their stars, you're minimizing their strengths, and you're maximizing their weaknesses. There's always a formula to win. I think the 49ers, if they're going to win this week, they better get out to a lead. They better play from ahead. And they're going to need to create some issues for this Eagles offense to get them off track a bit too, because they play so well and they have performed very well in the biggest moments.
So one of the similarities with you and Mahomes is that you both had great success early in the playoffs. So you never had this thing hanging over your head.
Yeah.
Like, oh, they can't win those close ones. Well, Buffalo's 0 for its last 8 playoff road games. Josh is 0-5. Usually golf and baseball, there's downtime. The sport can get into your head. Hockey, football, basketball, you don't have prolonged slumps. You got a series coming up. But I do think, Tom, it's tied at 24 late. Buffalo's got the ball. I can't believe I think all the pressure in the world's on Buffalo. Of all the teams this weekend, that's got to play a little psychological part, does it not?
Yeah, well, I think it's very psychological, very emotional. When they've been in these situations, they haven't played the type of winning football needed in order for them to advance. And sometimes they've gone against, in my opinion, Patrick, and the Chiefs team, which has been, the team that everyone's always aiming for. And you get caught up in those games against, the Chiefs. They've been a tough out for a long time. Now they're out of it this year. So can Buffalo find it within themselves to play their best football in the biggest moments? And look, some weeks they've looked great. The passing game looks great. Obviously, their runner's one of the top backs in the NFL, and the way Josh plays when he's playing his rhythm, he's virtually impossible. MVP caliber season last year, and I thought he played very well this season. So the good part about the playoffs is it's not where you play, it's not who you play, it's how you play. And it's really interesting, the playoffs this year. How you play in these games is going to determine who moves on. The team that doesn't turn the ball over, controls the line of scrimmage, plays well in situational football, makes the stops in the red area, or it goes the opposite way. And that's why I think this playoffs, more so than what I can remember in the past, and the NFL has done an unbelievable job this season with the parity in these games. And it's been so fun for me to cover them for Fox from my vantage point. I'm sure it's been very fun for the fans watching at home.
So Bears-Packers meeting for a third time. Would you rather have familiarity in the playoffs, a constant rival or opponent, or did you like the element of surprise? They don't know you, you don't know them, your tricks. I mean, I don't, which side do you like playing a team for a third time?
I would say that's pretty tough. Look, if you're in the playoffs, it shouldn't matter, who you're playing, where you're playing. Again, this is all about, like, you've got a shot. You got an opportunity. Now, what are you going to do with that opportunity? I've called 5 Chicago Bears games this season. Nobody thought they would have the type of season that they've had. We had them in Green Bay, where Caleb threw a kind of an interception at the last play of the game to Keyshawn Nixon, which sealed the victory for the Packers. Then, all of a sudden, this crazy comeback, which was America's Game of the Week, where they recover an onside kick and they go to overtime, and Caleb hits the bomb downfield. And this is what you love about it. These two teams know each other so well. Guys are coming out of, some unheralded receivers from the Bears have made some plays late in these games. So it is a super tight matchup for this game. This is one of the most intriguing games of the weekend. I can't wait to see how both teams played. And look, they know each other so well. So now it really does come down to the fundamentals and possession of the football and knowing your assignments, details. These are really tremendous programs this season. Great coaches. We'll see if who's the most prepared when they take the field.
So it's such an offensive league now. 12 of the 14 quarterbacks are first-round guys. If I was Seattle, I would not want to buy. I think they're young, hot. I'd want to play. Same with Denver. I'm not a big buy fan. Now, Ken, you played in the division. You had a lot of those. So I do wonder. Seattle and Denver aren't playing. Did you like the extra time, or did you just want to keep playing?
Yeah, so it's a great question. It is not a week of rest. Let me say that. It's a week of preparation.
Right.
And it's a week of preparation for what is going to be the most difficult game of the season, because it's whoever you play will have won a playoff game as you approach that game and that week. They're going to have tremendous confidence. Whoever you're going to play, they're like, man, we're already in the playoffs. We won a game. These guys have been sitting there not preparing. They're rested. But to me, it was like, what can we get done during this week that's going to give us an advantage for the following week? So to actually have the week off, to really take inventory this late in the year of what you're good at, what you're not good at, I always thought was really important. I felt like I was really fresh going into the divisional round. I'm sure with there's some great coaching. Obviously, Sean Payton with what he's done, and young Mike McDonald as a coach, and kind of the valuable experience that he's gained from last year into this year. Seattle's been tremendous on defense. Their defensive line is one of the greatest, D lines in football, probably the best D line in football. They're suffocating on defense, and that goes a long way. If they, get a turnover or two, going to Seattle and trying to win with that crowd noise, that is a very, very tough out to try to get Seattle out of the playoffs.
So I'm a Stafford over Drake Maye MVP, and the reason being, I think even the NFL uses strength of schedule in tiebreakers. And Stafford's schedule, he beat number 1 Houston defense, number 2 Seattle, was great against the Jags defense, played Philadelphia. This is not a knock on Drake Maye, but they had the weakest schedule in 26 years. I do think there is, I think schedule has to matter when one team has the weakest in 26 years and the other has an excellent schedule. I don't know if you voiced this publicly. I think you're leaning Stafford, are you not?
Yeah, I just said, look, I love Drake Maye and what he's done in his second year working with Josh McDaniels, who's another tremendous coach and has done such a great job kind of understanding what Drake's capable of, and Drake's taken advantage of every opportunity that he's got. And I don't know, I always think in these awards, when you say one thing that's positive about someone, it means you're saying something negative about the other. It's not like that at all. They both had incredible years. I just see Matt Stafford as a Hall of Fame level quarterback that has played his best season of football. And he's done it against, in any conditions, 46 touchdown passes. He's just been incredible. And I just love that the way he leads his team. And, there's no bad choice at this point. You're talking about some of the best players in the league, but Matt has, in my opinion, he's just really exceeded everyone's expectations this season. And what an incredible quarterback and what a career he's had.
Wrap it up with this. There's a famous clip where you go to the sidelines and Belichick says, "Settle down, Tommy. Settle down." And you're like, the guy ran the wrong route. So Drake Maye, first playoff game. Caleb Williams, that crowd's going to be electric. First playoff game. Jalen Hurts has been around the block, Josh Allen. So how did you, even at the end, you get to Super Bowls. how did you control emotionally that first pass, that first series? Because it's just playing at the Masters is different than the Buick Open. Playing a playoff game is different than Week 12. How do you control it?
Yeah. So I guess the point, Colin, is first of all, that clip with Belichick I always think is funny because he would never come up to me at the first quarter of a first series of a game and tell me to settle down until I realized he was mic'd up. And then that came out, and I was like, oh, God, now I got it. But it's a good exchange because I actually can sink back into that memory as well. And we had such a great rapport. I actually always am in touch with him, and he's been a great mentor for me, and he was always trying to get the best out of me, which is like what a lot of these great coaches in the playoffs are doing with their quarterbacks. And how do you prepare these quarterbacks for playoff football? You put pressure on them every single week to be their best. And you don't wait for the playoffs to go, all right, guys, well, now it's playoffs. Let's do something different. You've been preparing them all offseason since April so that they can be at their best when it matters the most for their team. So I just felt like the pressure to succeed on a daily basis in great organizations and to not let your teammates down prepared you for the biggest moments of the season when everybody's watching. And that's when you need to play your best. The margin of error is the smallest because you're playing the best teams. So you need to be at your best. And the only way to be at your best on these days is to think about over the course of the entire offseason, you need to be at your best every day. And that's the reality of professional sports. That's what the great athletes do. That's what the great quarterbacks do. Constantly putting pressure on themselves to succeed regardless of the moment. And that prepares you for these big moments that they're about to face this weekend.
You know, we have so many interesting offensive stories, and a franchise that doesn't get any attention is Jacksonville.
Yeah.
And I think you probably like Trevor Lawrence at Clemson. We all thought.
Yeah.
But he was kind of turnover prone. And then he gets Liam Cohen. And this will be my final question. What is Liam doing to create clarity? I always felt Trevor got lured into bad picks, and now he doesn't. Is it scheme? Is it tempo? What is Liam doing that we get the real Trevor Lawrence now?
Well, it's a lot of things, and I think Liam's done a great job. Even when he was at Tampa last year, and he has a couple opportunities to, really kind of take the skill sets that he's learned from other coaches that he's been around and then morph them into a system where they have a lot of good skill players. And Trevor is, a coach has got to get the players a lot of layups. Good OCs get their quarterbacks layups. You don't have to thread the needle on every single throw. You got guys that are wide open. Great. There's a big margin of error on a big portion of the passes. That's the goal of an offensive coordinator. It's to how do we create through our scheme, either the route concepts or run concepts, how can we give our players a little bit of an advantage? Because the reality is, if you don't give them an advantage, I'd liken it to a golfer. Would you rather hit a 3-iron or 4-iron into a green, or would you rather hit a pitching wedge?
Right.
Over time, the more pitching wedge you hit when your opponent's hitting 3-irons or 4-irons, the more of an advantage you have. And the good coordinators like Liam, and I know he's a head coach, but he calls the plays, like a Kyle Shanahan, like a Josh McDaniels, like a Sean Payton, these guys are hitting sand wedges into greens. And that's what you want to do. And then ultimately, the quarterback needs to play a part of that. As you mature, you get older, you start to, give your coordinator, okay, these are the things I really love. This is what I'm really confident. You become an extension of the coaching staff. And that's when you really start firing on all cylinders. That's what I did. That's what Drew Brees did. That's what Peyton Manning did. We had our own imprint on what the game plan should be. We were totally confident in everything that was being called, which allowed us to go out there and execute at our best.
49ers, Eagles, Sunday, 4 Eastern on Fox. There's going to be some records broken. That is going to be so intense. Two huge NFL blue bloods. Tom, as always, I appreciate you stopping by.
Hey, thanks for inviting me back. I know Shanks and Zager had to call to try to get me on. So eventually, you'll just invite me yourself. But I'm glad we were able to make this work, certainly as we go into the playoffs. Thank you.
Tom Brady.